there is so much buzz around what is the new thing in the news cycle and chasing after the buzzwords because it looks cool to be chasing that. So 2023 was LLMs. You don't need to stick an LLM into everything.
Right.
A lot of things don't need it. 2024 was RAG. People setting up RAG infrastructure without thinking through hallucination and factuality and groundedness, and fine-tuning models when you didn't need to fine-tune models. This year, unfortunately, is agents. Everybody wants to start building agents because that's the thing in the market, right? So I think grounding it on what is it that you're trying to accomplish as the first thing, not, oh, this tech looks cool. That's the first thing that I would say.
Welcome to another episode of Discovering Disruptions in Tech. As always, I'm your host, Howard Holton, and I'm here this week with Anand Raghavan. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
I messed it up just a little bit, didn't I?
Oh, that's okay. No? That's good.
From Cisco. And I'm going to use my psychic powers. I think we might talk a little bit about AI.
I think so too.
Right? Right. Well, let's get into it.
Really excited to be here. So I have had an interesting journey through multiple startups, ending with a startup that I had founded in 2017 with my co-founder in the email security world. We got acquired into Cisco as of 2023, and right now I'm a VP of products for AI at Cisco.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So complex space, right? Especially like being in AI and AI products, which is a big space at a company as large as Cisco, right? Because I have to imagine the entire portfolio is going to be tackled by AI.
Yes.
Right? So what does that kind of look like at a somewhat high level?
Yeah, so a few parts to that. One is you got to learn about a lot of new products. So going from a career where I've mostly been in organizations less than 3,000 people to an organization with tens of thousands of people, it's exciting at some level because you have so many experts that have built protocols that have been there for 25, 30 years that can speak at depth to a lot of protocols. It's also exciting because the same set of people have seen multiple technology transitions and how that has impacted the products they bring to market, right? And some of the things you see is AI is not something new, even though in every version of technology people say, oh wow, this is the best thing ever. AI harkens back to like 40 plus years ago with anomaly detection and outlier detection and all of that, right? And to your point about AI is impacting everything in the portfolio of any company, unless you invest in AI starting at the bottommost layer of your stack, like in hardware, in silicon, right? It is harder to build incrementally useful things as additive on top without just it being seen as a layering thing. Right? So one of the exciting parts of my job has been to find out what is a non-linear experience you can add on top of years of investment teams have made into products that our customers use to provide a very differentiated experience to them.
Well, it's got to be, like if I think about the Cisco iOS, which has been around for 22, 23, 24, 26 years, something just before the turn of the millennium, right?
Yep.
It can't be technical debt-free. It can't. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Right? There is definitely some code base there that's been carried forward because there's some multi-billion-dollar company that said you can't change this or we're going to switch. It's just the way those things work. No value judgment. So it also has to be complex to find the right spot to insert AI where you're going to provide tremendous amount of value and at the same time manage the risk of disrupting the kind of existing tech stack. What does that kind of process look like for you?
Yeah, so as a company, there's some really, really interesting bets we are taking on how we operate, right? And one of them is bringing AI into how we operate as an organization, right? So a lot of investments going on into broadly, I would say 5 categories, right? There is AI for developer productivity, and I'll come back to that with the iOS example you mentioned. There is AI in the DevOps area of what we do, AI in QA and automation, there's AI in product security and compliance, and then of course in cloud cost optimization, right? So in each of these areas, we're trying to identify what are gaps in what we have today, including tech debt, and what are ways in which we can accelerate that and accelerate the time to value for our customers.
Sure.
Right? So when you think about code base, right, some of the things coding assistants have been good at is migrating code base from one language to another, right? Or identifying bugs or automating test cases so that your QA teams are more productive and efficient, right? So they're investing in a lot of that, right? There are some challenges that are uniquely specific to organizations of our scale and size, right? For example, if you have a fully cloud-based coding assistant, you may not want to put all of your code accessible to a cloud-based coding assistant. So there are limitations to the kinds of products you can use, and the ways in which you want it to be able to deploy. But there's at least 3-4 different coding assistants we are looking at right now across the organization, with different teams using it to different levels of expertise. And what's been interesting is it's not just a bottoms up people experimenting. There's also a top down encouragement for the company saying that, look, we need to be AI first, and what that means is in every part of the organization we need to learn how to use these AI tools. So it's not just in engineering. I was just in a call earlier today with Cisco Foundation and the social impact side of Cisco, and one of the things we've been talking about is a lot of the organizations we support, they are not AI native, if you will. How do you help them become AI native? How do you help them use AI to accelerate the value they bring to the market?
Sure.
Right?
I mean, there's a like a fear horizon that you have to overcome, right? Human beings don't like change. And AI, certainly the LLM side of AI, right? which is really what we're talking about in this context, is the most fear-inducing piece of AI that I've seen outside of fantasy, right? Terminator. Right? So like that's got to be a challenge. How do you manage that? And then at the same time, how do you manage things like that top-down approach that says, as an organization, we must embrace AI. AI must be integrated into our operating model. But also, we know, because of where AI is, that that's going to add risk, not reduce risk. So how to, like, from the top down, how do you look at that as a company and say, this will be part of our culture, and we understand that our risk profile has to change in order, like, if A is true, then B also has to be true. How does that like work? How do you work through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a delicate balance of a few different competing priorities, if you will, right? It starts with having a solid foundation around responsible AI and governance, right? What tools are you picking? What are these tools getting exposed to, right? So our SVP of Legal, Jen Yokoyama, leads the charge on that, right? Doing responsible AI governance around all the tools we are testing out, we are bringing into the organization, right? So that's the first part of that. The second part of that is what is causing risk.
And when you talk about responsible AI, it's two pieces, right? Because it has to be not only how do we use AI responsibly so that we're not adding undue risk to Cisco,
right?
But at the same time, it also has to be how do we use it responsibly in a way that matches our values in the outcomes, right?
Correct.
So it is the two sides. It's the
both sides.
How do we protect our intellectual property, and at the same time, how do we use it ethically?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So within that context, for example, if you're looking at let's pick a particular example, right? Let's pick the example of coding assistants, right? We have a rigorous process through which we put them through before we decide, okay, we need to use this, right? Then it becomes what team is using it, in what capacity, right? Is this a QA team? Are they just writing, like automating a test scenario for their particular product, right? Or is this writing code that goes into products, millions of products that get shipped out, right? Different levels of risk and exposure, right? And based on that, you can determine how many levels of testing and verification do you need before you're saying, okay, this is okay, right? So within our team, for example, within my team, we play with a lot of new products that are out there in the market, Gen AI products. And a lot of them we may not end up using because they may not be directly relevant to us, right? But once we've done the RAI process, it makes it easy for us to go play with it and see what value it brings, and then decide whether we like it or not. One of those companies was Lightning AI. In the Lightning AI, we brought it in, we started using it, we liked it. We became big proponents of that within the company. In fact, we spoke to Cisco Investments and said, hey, this is a company that looks great. We ended up investing in it as well, right? So the discovery and curiosity part of that you have to encourage, right? The other part of that is some of the fear in any of us comes from, like you said, resistance to change. And it could be because I don't understand this. So how do you make it easy for people to reskill and upskill? So we set up a lot of curriculum. We have an academy where I think there's a green belt, black belt, there's multiple levels of certification for employees, not just in engineering, but in other parts of the business as well, so that I can get exposed to AI independent of my job, right? I think within the people organization, they have a community where you can share prompts with each other. Okay, what are good prompts I'm using for the kinds of things I'm trying to do, right? We have our own guardrail version of ChatGPT called Bridge IT, where our employees can use it while all the guardrails are in place to protect how they are using AI, right? We have conversations, like I host a show called Humans of AI every other Wednesday in the morning, where I talk to Cisco employees for 30 minutes. About 15 to 20 minutes is what they do in AI, so that people can see the interesting work they do. And about 10 to 15 minutes about who they are. How did they get into AI? What was their transition from where they
What's
are to
their
how they
journey within their personal journey with AI, not their professional outcome-based journey with AI?
Yeah. So that breaks down a lot of these uncertainties around, oh, if they could do it, I could do it too.
Right.
So at an organization at that scale, you got to have all of these initiatives going on at the same time for people to feel comfortable adopting something new and disruptive as AI.
So, as large as you are, right, and as broad as this is, I'm sure you also talk to a lot of customers.
Yep.
If you could pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't want to limit the number, but some few number of the things you wish customers would just stop doing in AI that's hurting themselves without maybe them knowing, what would those be?
I think one of the things is there is so much buzz around what is the new thing in the news cycle and chasing after the buzzwords because it looks cool to be chasing that. So 2023 was LLMs. You don't need to stick an LLM into everything. Right. A lot of things don't need it. 2024 was RAG. People setting up RAG infrastructure without thinking through hallucination and factuality and groundedness, and fine-tuning models when you didn't need to fine-tune models. This year, unfortunately, is agents. Everybody wants to start building agents because that's the thing in the market, right? So I think grounding it on what is it that you're trying to accomplish as the first thing, not, oh, this tech looks cool. That's the first thing that I would say. The second one is...
Kind of reminds you of like 2007 when like they were shipping toasters that had MP3 players.
Yes.
Right? Like, no, I really don't need my toaster to play music while I'm trying to make toast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that I see just to that point is the number of times I saw a company talking about fine tuning and you're like, that's not fine tuning.
Yeah.
That's not actually fine tuning at all. And now I'm seeing with agents, right? The best advice I could give any company is when your vendor is talking about how agentic they are, ask them to describe agents. Ask them to really get into how they describe agents and what the agent is. And I'm willing to bet at the second question, the entire conversation falls apart like a balloon that you just let the air out of. Because it's likely it's not actually agentic in any way, right? It's just hot air, it's just BS, it's just marketecture.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, very much to your point, right? You don't need to adopt the new stuff. Frankly, very few people were able to push the limits of your base LLM that was available to you and actually make progress to find the edges where it would fall apart. Like just start there, right?
Yeah. And some scenarios may not need an LLM, a small language model might be just good enough, right? Yeah. So picking the right use case for the problem you're trying to solve versus, and also the vendor ecosystem is not helping.
No, it's not.
When you have 200 vendors pitching very similar sounding things, you're like, oh, that must be something that I should adopt.
Right.
So really being grounded on factuality, if you will, to run the analogy, makes it a lot easier to kind of pick what you're trying to solve for, right? The next in the sequence is around, like to the earlier conversation that we had, right? So Gen AI adoption within your organization is a journey, right? Where are you in that journey? Are you stuck because you don't have the right sets of tools? Are you stuck because you don't have the right sets of processes? Or are you stuck because your people are not ready for it, right? Having a good understanding of that.
It's weird. It's like it's the same operating model conversation that we've had since, 1979. It's people, processes, and tools.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You have to fill all three buckets.
Yep.
You can't just pick one and be surprised when it doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah. And also reminding people that AI has been there forever, right? So and asking, so when you talk to customers, ask them what they mean when they say AI, like when you talk to vendors, right? So there's at least 4 kinds of things, right? There is statistical models, been around for 40, 50 years, nothing new. There is traditional machine learning models, like classifiers, been around for 30 plus years. There is NLP-based models, like named entity recognition, things like that. Even they've been around for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, long time.
And then the last category is neural networks. And within that, the LLM world is where all the hype is, right? So when you talk to a vendor and say, okay, which of these do you have? It helps you disambiguate what they're marketing versus what they really have. And then really zoning in on the use case. Okay, why are you using this for this use case? Right. Is it because it sounds good on our product marketing brochure? Or is it really bringing value to me as a potential customer of what your product is? Right?
Yeah, so, as a sign that AI has been around forever, I worked in computer vision quite heavily.
Okay.
At some point, in human history, computer vision, artificial intelligence that studies videos and images, will be more accurate than humans at doing the same job.
Yeah.
Would you let you guess what year that would be?
60s?
It's a trick question. It was 2013. Right? So even in 2013, we had very advanced artificial intelligence models that could do really amazing and interesting things far more accurately than humans.
Yep, yeah.
Right.
It poses a really interesting question about, so I'm a huge fan of behavioral economics, right?
Yeah.
So today, if you look at radiologists and you look at vision models that look at images, the best vision models can do better than some of the better radiologists, right? But if I'm going into the hospital and I need a decision to be made on my scan, I would pick the human over the AI, right?
Sure, of course.
It's because of a bias that I have that, okay, the human is
And let's be clear, the AI models trained on imaging, medical imaging, are better than all of the best radiologists in the world. Like, they can detect cancer cells so much earlier, so much more beyond what a human could see on their best day. It doesn't even compare. And yet, I do not want a machine to say, you are okay.
Exactly.
Right? In no way do I want that.
Yeah.
I already have a problem with the surgeons that have no bedside manner. I really don't need a machine that is incapable of bedside manner, right?
Yeah. Which is why, like, one of the discussions that we've been having as an industry, it's the question is not whether it's AI versus human, it is human versus human with AI.
Correct.
Right? What can we do better in all of our professions if AI is there to assist us with things where we really need the help, right? And that's I think the discussion of this generation.
I mean, the World Economic Forum has said that, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but they're close enough for the conversation. Something like 875 million jobs will be lost due to AI. 925 million jobs will be created due to AI. Yeah. The difference between the jobs is the job goes away and is recreated, and it says with AI. And I think that's important for two reasons, right? The first is, one, we're acknowledging there's this massive disruption that's happening. But two, it's the first time the tool goes right into the job description.
Yep. Yeah.
Because it is so integral to the ability to work in the future. This is not an add-on. This is not a new fancy, like we're not changing a screwdriver for an electric screwdriver, right? We're changing a screwdriver for a CAD machine, right? It is a world of difference. The way you will interface with your job will fundamentally be different.
Yeah, and one of the ways in which I try to explain that to customers is we're not talking about jobs or jobs elimination. What we are talking about is tasks within your job. So there's probably 100 tasks you have to do in your job. There's probably 20 of them you don't want to do. AI can automate that for you. There's probly 50 of them where AI can assist you and help you do better.
Talk to my boss. Sorry.
One of these days, it can help you compose those emails.
What do you mean, one of those days? It's doing it today. But yeah, I mean, that's a very good point, right?
Yeah.
So what that means is you should be adding AI to your library of skills now.
Correct, absolutely. And I think the big shift is when we start using it in our personal lives in a way that it changes how we look for information in our personal lives, right? How often do we go back to Google versus using ChatGPT or Perplexity or something else in our personal lives? That's a good indicator of how likely is it that we will adopt it for our work as well, because it's just a reflection of how we live, right? Access to information has fundamentally changed with this cycle of Gen AI products that are in the market, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Not just text. I mean, if you look at vision models, I was just talking to Fei-Fei Li a couple of weeks back with the World Labs and the vision models that they have. Some incredibly amazing things are being done. I can write a prompt and I can create videos that look surreal, right? Or if you look at Suno, the fun thing I do with a lot of my the friends' kids on their birthdays is I use Suno to compose a very custom happy birthday song for them. Right? So I ask the parents, okay, what are some fun things about your kid? Put it into this. It generates an automatic tune to the style of music that the kid likes, and it's amazing. They enjoy it, right? So just those micro experiences in our lives that are fundamentally changed. Happy birthday cards. I don't just send blind cards anymore. I can create a cartoon the way I want it using an image generation model and put it out there, right? So how we do this in our personal lives is a really good reflection of our growth mindset at work as well. I think that's where, and I was talking to somebody who said, the biggest skills in this generation is going to be not how we learn, but how we unlearn, so that we can learn the new way of operating, right? So that becomes an important part of how we survive this wave of technology.
For sure. I mean, I've been trying to tell my team this for 6 months, and I'll tell anybody that listens. Machines aren't curious. They just can't be curious. Humans can be curious. Yeah. So if you want to ensure that you have a future, be curious. Exactly. It's not actually harder than that. Yeah. Be curious. If you add curiosity to what AI can do, AI is a massive multiplier. Yep. Without curiosity, AI is your replacement. Yep. And I don't know that there's any other way to frame it. I don't want people to be afraid, but I do need people to wake up and recognize that the value you add to your job is curiosity. It is not pushing buttons and moving tasks. Right. Yeah. That is things we can do with automation and AI. Yeah. Right.
And how we learn also, like in our jobs, there are always new things for us to learn.
For sure.
And it's so much easier now to go to ChatGPT and say, I would like to learn, like one of the topics I know nothing about, where we, as an organization we do work, is in quantum computing. Like, okay, I would like to learn quantum computing. Give me a 6-week syllabus. I can outline a 6-week syllabus for me. I can say, explain it to me like a 10-year-old. It'll actually do that for me, right? So the way it modifies how we learn, and I think when you look at impact to us as a society, I think that's going to be one of the biggest impacts to us as a society, because very often what happens is, whether it's online education or in classroom education, it's a broadcast mechanism. Yeah, so the educator cannot meet the individual needs of all the students in the class. With this now, with GenAI powered education, you can actually have a curriculum that's tailored to you.
For sure.
Right? So there's some fundamental changes like that, and that's not just in schools, but even in our jobs.
It's even more than just a curriculum tailored to you, right? Because it will immediately retailor it based on the interaction right now today.
Yep.
Right? So it is never fixed because it doesn't care. It doesn't have any feelings.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's just going to attempt to deliver the thing that achieves the goal that you set with the prompt.
Yep.
It's not perfect, but it's also fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? I think it is the second most impactful thing modern society has created.
What is the first?
The printing press.
Oh.
Right?
I can't argue with that. Yes.
The printing press
allows you to replicate thoughts.
Right. It was the democratization of information.
Yeah.
Right. Before that, the church owned all knowledge. Right. They owned all the scribes. They created all the books. They controlled education and everything. The printing press fundamentally changed that. Yeah. So this isn't the democratization of information, which I've heard people say. No, that was the printing press.
Yeah.
This is the democratization of education.
Yep.
Right. I now have a tutor that is online, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never gets tired. It never gets exhausted. It never gets frustrated.
Yeah, it's the democratization and it's the hyper-personalization.
Yeah.
Right? At my pace, when I want it. The other important barrier this has surmounted is language.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in India. In a lot of parts of India, the school, the medium of education is English. That's not the language I speak at home. Once I leave the classroom, right. I'm never fluent at it, right? Now I have models that can speak my language, that can teach me in my language, right? Fundamentally changes my ability to retain information and learn. That's another big impact of AI, Gen AI, to society.
So I did an interesting thing. Something had occurred to me about Indian names one day, because you never put a lot of thought into things that you can't find an answer to, right? I'm infinitely curious, but if I can't rationalize where to find the answer, I just tend to try to drop the thought. Yeah. And AI has made it so I never have to drop the thought. And so I got into the etymology of the Anglification of Indian names, and it was I was probably 30 minutes in to this really deep prompt thing. I'm learning a ton, and I just stopped and I went, I can't believe I live in this world.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I was able to just have a 30-minute conversation and learn about a topic as bizarre as because it doesn't matter to me. It impacts my life 0%. I am not Indian, right? I'm never going to be involved in the process of creating those names and anglifying those names. I just had a wild hair, and yet was able to go through the entire process and learn how the entire process works and the historical evolution of how it happened. It was incredible.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. That I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the ability to satisfy curiosity, just for the heck of it, right? Because we are curious for knowledge, that barrier has completely broken down, right? For me, I would say the less serious example is watching a Netflix show or watching something on Prime. I'm like, I know that this actor showed up in as this character in this other movie. What is their name? I don't have to now go search on a search and look at 10 different links. I can just ask it one question, I get a result back.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do is we steal from everything, right? And so when I'm watching a movie and I'm watching a historical fiction, right, to go, okay, I remember something like that actually happening. Yes. How much of that is actually real?
Yeah.
And what I mean, it says some sad things about me. All of a sudden, the movie's been paused for an hour and a half, and now I'm deep into the history of a thing they just mentioned as a partial kind of thing, right? The show, The Diplomat.
Yes,
Netflix show. I love the show. It's very, very good.
I love the show, yeah.
But one of the key pieces talks about the strategic value of Scotland and the value of soft power in politics.
Yeah.
Recently, something happened in our politics in real life that had me reflecting back on that particular piece and comparing it to what's happening in reality to see, is there actually a corollary that not only did I miss the first time, but also most people are missing the first time, that may explain the behavior, even it doesn't justify the behavior, right? And to be able to, that would never come up under a Google search.
Yeah.
It is simply not possible because there's a level of static information that's available on Google.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that makes this AI so incredibly amazing is it is not static in any way. Right, the dynamism in it being able to answer to a specific request. Now, let's talk about hallucinations, because all of this is amazing.
Yep.
But these things hallucinate like they're on LSD and following Tommy Chong and Cheech Marin on tour, right?
Yes. It's a lot better now, but yeah.
Kind of, right?
Yeah.
The 01 Mini and 03 Mini, the hallucinations have like quadrupled, right? So while it has been getting better historically over time, we also see these things take huge setbacks. Right now, Sam Altman released, we have no idea why it happened and we didn't really intend it, but you are right, all of our models are way too emphatically in love with the users, right? And we're trying to work on that. So there are some unintended consequences. Obviously, hallucination is somewhat an unintended consequence. Right?
It's a feature, not a bug. Like, for example, if you think about
a great way to say it, yes.
Yeah, if you think about the creative world, I mean, everything a model spits out is a hallucination, right? I mean,
that is correct.
Philosophically, everything we spit out is a hallucination. It's a concept of how we have processed information.
But it's also, it's core to the fact that these are large language models.
Right.
They are not large scientific models. They're not large research models. These are large language models.
Right.
The goal of the model is to create a series of words that give the ideal output to the prompt.
Correct.
Right, and so technically, right, it is a feature, not a bug, because they've achieved the goal, which is to create language that answers the question.
Yeah. The key is to build the infrastructure around it to make sure that you have the right kind of groundedness, the right kind of factuality scores, to make sure that what is coming out is reliable, right? And some of this goes back to our earlier discussion around radiology and vision models, right? Sometimes it's not about what the model has put out there, it's about, is it verifiable, right? So one of the ways in which we looked at it when we built our assistants was putting in inline citations. So we give an answer to a question the user asked. We might have gotten that from 20 different documents. But if we can put an inline citation for the key facts that we have pointed out, so the user can click and verify. And if they do that 10 times and they say that 10 out of 10, it's actually factually correct, it builds more implicit trust that, okay, the next time I'm not going to do so. So that's one way to solve for that, right? The other interesting challenge you're seeing today with the reasoning model, so Anthropic's research team does some fascinating research. They're looking at hallucinations in reasoning. Mm-hmm. So if I asked a reasoning model a question and I asked it to explain what it did, it just makes up a reason.
It does, yeah.
That arrives at the result that it said, right? That's not how it processed the thoughts. So the way they're the way they discovered that is that they asked the model to spit out the chain of thought reasoning of what it was doing. And they compared it to the explanation it gave at the end. Two are not the same.
Correct.
Now what they're trying to do is, can you have an LLM as a monitor for a chain of thought reasoning and look for misbehavior while a model is reasoning, right? It's almost like, when you are having bad thoughts, if there's somebody in your conscience telling you, hey, by the way, that's not a good idea, it helps you comply. Something along those lines. So fascinating parallels between how our brains operate and how transformers operate in terms of how we reason, how, like, for example, rewards and reinforcement learning versus the legal system and rewards in our real life. A lot of pretty interesting parallels.
It's also a really good use for agentic.
Yes.
Right. This is where, if we go back and look at the original paper about agentic, this is actually what it was used for. was take the output, flip the question to another agent that validates what the first thing responded with, right? Loop and move forward, right? It created feedback loops to reduce the hallucinations and increase the accuracy. Because it's a lot of work to click on every one of those citations. But it's almost no work to create an agent that leverages the citations to validate the citations, and if the citations are wrong, loop back and redo the entire prompt until the citations are actually correct and validated. And then what it spits out at the end, the quality has increased massively, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, we have a few different such nifty experiments we run. Like one of the experiments is, let's say using the firewall assistant, right? And you're asking a bunch of questions. Now, if I want to generate training data, and if I want humans to create all of these training questions, it's going to take a while. So we have a multi-agent system where one agent sits and creates these questions. Another agent, what it does is it makes it more human. So it puts in typos, it makes it sentences that are not grammatically correct and all of that. And then a third agent takes those and responds to those questions. And then a fourth one actually verifies, okay, are these answers accurate? Is it factually correct? And all of those things. And then it goes in a loop. Now, all of a sudden, we have synthetically generated training data that is more accurately resembling how a human would interact with it, that we can now append to our training data set for different use cases, right? So you're absolutely right. Agents can actually amplify a lot of these processes to get training data, to validate synthetic data, and all of those things.
Yeah, it's quite fantastic. Where I think it's really gonna be explosive in value is when we get these really good small language models and medium language models that are hyper focused on outcomes, and you're able to go stage, right? I would love to take a code generator and immediately run it through a supply chain validator that runs it through something that validates against my corporate design standards, that runs it through a security code checker, that runs it through automatic Q. You know what I mean? Like just runs all the way through all of the stuff down to something where its focus is just code efficiency. Whatever you could possibly think of. Right. This
literally was my conversation with my CISO last night.
Yeah.
The kind of things we want to build so that security is built into the design process.
Correct.
Right? A lot of that is doable today.
Correct. It is doable. It is managing. It's again, we're right back to managing the hallucinations, right? And that's where hyper trained models. I'm going to use it. I know it's not the right term, but hyper trained models that are extremely purposeful and are designed as agents. So there is no way to break the chain. There's no way for a human to break the chain. Right? You get all the output, you can validate every single step, and you can check it. But you can't skip the supply chain step. You can't skip the architectural alliance step. Right? All of those things are going to happen.
The only modification I'll make to what you said is for the agent, like when the agent has all of these tools to call, one of the tools is phone a friend. Can I call a human to say, help me with this, right?
For sure.
The factuality score of this, I'm not really confident of this. Hey, human, can you verify this for me, right? So a lot of the early parts of what we did with agentic AI has been around human-initiated.
You don't want your agents to just loop until what should have cost 12 cents costs $1,000?
Probably not,
right? Because part of the loop is you give it a score. You have the agent score the output, and if the score is too low, it reruns. Right? But at some point, it has to also track the number of runs. So if the score hadn't improved, it does phone a friend. That's a very, very that might be the winning advice of the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
It's very, very good.
Yeah, so the framing is not just human initiated and then hand off to agents, but a lot of this can be agent initiated, but then call a human into the loop and you need a human, right? And that's where the coexistence between bots and agents and humans becomes so important in this world of Gen AI, right? It's not just either or, it's about how can collaboratively, like in the agentic ecosystem with humans, make better outcomes for all of us, right?
Okay, so I have no idea how much time we've spent, but it feels like a lot. This has been a ton of fun. Let's say you were going to give someone some advice on a personal use for AI to kind of get them started down the path. Do you have something that's a big banger that you really like, that's fun and exciting?
So the first one I would quote is a video that's worth watching in its entirety. Andre Karpathy had put out a video, How I Use LLMs.
Okay.
Some parts of it are technical, but I've been recommending that to a lot of people. A really good set of use cases for different examples in your life, how can you use it, right?
Okay.
But some of the quick wins are, for example, if you're in school, don't use it to write all of your homework. But let's say you have a lot of PDFs to read, and tomorrow the homework is due, and you want a quick summary of all the PDFs, you can dump it all in the context window. That's the beautiful thing. You don't need a fine-tuned model anymore. You can have a 10 million token context window.
So big now.
Yeah, you just dump all the PDFs in there and say, can you give me a summary? Right? Can you explain to me what are the key things that this project is talking about? Right? And then I can go write it up myself. Or more importantly, like in the world of marketing, for example, I mean, sometimes I struggle with writer's block. Like, what is the first paragraph I need to write? I can use this as my thought partner. Hey, I'm going on this podcast. I'm going to talk about AI. Here is the context of what I'm going to do. What are some important things that are trends that are happening in the market today, right? And it can give me a pretty thoughtful response, right? And I wish I had done that before I came here.
No, you didn't need that at all. That was not at all necessary.
But that's a good use case for as a thought partner in what you're doing, right? Another really interesting scenario that I've read multiple articles around this is, especially in our healthcare system, when you have multiple specialists you go to for multiple things, and you have a condition that people are finding it difficult to diagnose, actually using ChatGPT and its memory feature to actually upload all of your test results into that and say, okay, I just did this test and here's what it found. Now in the context of everything else you've seen, what should it be, right? It's fascinating the kinds of insights you can get, right? And because as humans, we are not trained to identify outliers automatically because of all of our cognitive biases. AI does not have those cognitive biases. It's going to tell you something that is 1 in 10, the same way it's going to tell you something that's 1 in a billion. Right?
For sure.
And so you can now take it to your physician and say, hey, by the way, could it be this?
Right.
And it's interesting, the number of scenarios, not just for humans, people with their pets. If you look at Reddit, you look at some of the real cases that people put out there. That's been a very interesting use case, right?
So I saw one on the healthcare thing. I saw one yesterday or the day before, where a guy shared his recent experience. He had gone in for surgery. He came out, and a couple days later, his incision site was a little uncomfortable. So he took a picture and uploaded it to ChatGPT and said, hey, this is what's happened. It's uncomfortable. What can you see, and should I be concerned? Because, nobody wants to go to urgent care. Nobody wants to go to the ER. Nobody wants to, we don't want to be a burden. And what the AI found was it saw a suture that had been left that should have been removed and early signs of inflammation. And it recommended that he go call his doctor and go see his surgeon. And he went and saw the surgeon, and the surgeon was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you came in because it is in fact infected. And you caught it so early, this is not going to be, we're going to rush you into surgery because they're going to reopen it up and clean it out, suture, right? And remove that suture and blah, blah, blah. But it's not at all a big deal. You'll be totally fine. But had you waited a week, that would have been septic, right? And it caught it that early, and it was just, again, didn't want to be a burden. Well, you can't be a burden to a machine. It is not possible to be a burden to a machine, so use the machine.
Yeah. Right. The other big thing, again, a human behavior aspect to this is we worry about what other people think about us.
Right.
So I may not want to come here and ask you some stupid questions because, hey, what's Howard going to think about me? AI doesn't pass judgments on me.
Right.
I can ask it what I think are stupid questions all day long, and it's there to help me however I want.
Correct.
Right? So that's another amazing part of learning from an AI. There is no value judgment.
It is actually programmed to be supportive.
It is programmed to be supportive.
Right?
Yes.
It is the opposite of humans.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have our cognitive biases the way we behave as a society, right? And that's a big part of that. Like, if there's a concept that it explained, it's a little bit technical. I can say, okay, explain to me like I'm a 10-year-old. If I said that to somebody else, they might take it differently.
For
sure. The AI, it's just a new instruction. Okay, I'll do what you tell me.
Quantum was a big one for me, right? Because, there's a limited amount of stuff anyone can know, and quantum is just frankly confusing as hell. And having it explain quantum and then explaining it back to it was the greatest thing, right? Because again, don't treat this like Google. It is not put in a question, get an answer, move on with your life. It's put in a question, get an answer, have a conversation. That's the most important thing. Have a conversation. I don't even care if you clearly understood it. Just repeat it back and have a conversation. Because learning to have a conversation, learning to interact is going to expose so much learning within AI. It's going to be extremely valuable.
Yeah, and the voice mode is a really cool thing to use.
It's so good.
If you're, like, for example, when I drive, these days, I don't do podcasts as often as I just chat with the Gen AI app, like Perplexity, Gemini. I just go to voice mode and I ask a question and I get a response back. It's fascinating.
I'm almost 50, and I teach people how to play Dungeons and Dragons. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since church camp when I was 13. 11, 12, something. Young teenager, adolescence. And I had this idea that I wondered if I could teach like history, American history and politics through the lens of a role-playing game where you play a president facing a situation that president faced, right? And so I did that. I threw on voice mode and I just chatted back and forth. I designed an entire game in the drive from the airport to my house. Yeah. And by the time I was home, not only had I thought through the entire thing, had I walked through the entire thing, but it's AI. Yeah. So it remembered all of it. Yep. And the last instruction that I gave was, great, write the rules, write the pitch, write the everything. And so by the time I parked and came inside, I had an entire document that was my game end to end. It's just amazing what you can do, right? Yeah. And so I think you would agree with me. I encourage people just to play with it and get used to it and start,
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to fundamentally change how we interact with information in our lives and frankly, how we grow as human beings.
I agree. Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. So how can people find you to learn more?
So on LinkedIn, look me up, Anand Raghavan, and Cisco. If you search for that, I'm the only Anand Raghavan at Cisco, so you can find me there. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this has been another episode of Discovering Disruptions in Tech. Please like, subscribe, follow, comment, share, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.